Plitvice lakes' travertine barriers are still growing, causing waterfalls to rebuild themselves over centuries. One of the few living rock systems on Earth, right here in Croatia. Do you know Mljet Island's Great Lake hides a tiny islet with a 12th century Benedictine monastery and legends that Odysseus once sought refuge there. From the sun-bleached terraces of Hvar, we sail into a quieter sea, where Mljet keeps its secrets in dense pine and salty breeze. The island hides two inland saltwater lakes, Veliko and Malo Jezero, whose brackish waters mirror olive-clad cliffs, and an island-capped monastery. On that tiny islet, St. Mary, the Benedictine monastery dates to the 12th century and feels like a fragment of a lost medieval map. Cyclists and kayakers trace whispering paths through primeval forest, where nightingales still sing and deer appear at dusk. Mljet National Park covers nearly a third of the island, preserving ecosystems rarely intact in the Mediterranean. Its labyrinth of coves and submerged stone ruins invites slow discovery rather than hurried sightseeing. Local legend tells of Odysseus becoming the island's guest, detained by a nymph until he yearned for home. The story lingers in fishermen's songs and the names of hidden bays. Salt pans and small fishing hamlets connect the park's quiet back to the island's living traditions. Beneath the surface, Posidonia seagrass meadows cradle clarity so pure you can count fish scales glinting in sunlight. Divers and freedivers find ancient amphora fragments and sculpted limestone that hint at trade routes older than many nations. Hotel-style development is scarce. Instead, families run homely konabas where you taste carob honey, grilled scorpion fish, and olive oil, pressed from groves that predate modern borders. The slow rhythm here stitches together maritime life, monastic solitude, and the raw pulse of wild nature. Even the ferry crossings become part of the unfolding story, moving from vivacious ports to Mljet's soft hush, where stars feel closer and time bends. Stay ashore at sunset and the island's nocturnal chorus will teach you how to listen again. Local boatmen share hand-drawn maps from memory. You leave richer for every secret kept. Along the jagged Adriatic, a rare coastal karst system makes rivers and sea meet. This extraordinary landscape belongs to Croatia. Do you know Limski Canal, the drowned karst canyon near Istria, whose sheltered waters create microclimates that support species found nowhere else on Earth? Perched on a pine-kissed hill above the Mirna Valley, Grožnjan looks like a postcard from another century. Yet behind its stone walls and narrow lanes lies a living experiment where artists, musicians, and farmers have rewritten what a village can be. Walk through its arched gateways and you enter a patchwork of studios, galleries, and centuries-old houses whose facades are painted with stories. The village hosts more painters per capita than almost anywhere in the region, and every canvas seems to capture the light that spills from the Adriatic a few miles away. Grožnjan's festival calendar turns empty lanes into open-air stages where violinists and experimental ensembles play for audiences who spill onto stone stairways. But the music is only part of the village's alchemy. Olive groves and terraced vineyards stitch the town to Istria's culinary DNA, linking art to taste. Wandering out past the last houses, you find olive presses still driven by local families who press oil the way their grandparents did. Those oils, drizzled over black truffles from the Motovan woods, create flavors that trace a direct line from hilltop village to Michelin table. From Grožnjan's ramparts, you can see the patchwork fields folding toward the coast, and on clear days, the sprawl of Pula's amphitheater peaks beyond the low horizon. That view is a reminder that Grožnjan sits at a crossroads where inland Istria's rural traditions meet the Adriatic's maritime history. Yet the village's true rarity is how it preserves time without becoming a museum. Residents live, work, and improvise in spaces that tourists photograph. Young artisans keep stonemasonry alive, while composers turn attics into rehearsal rooms, making Grožnjan both archive and laboratory. Every narrow lane offers a story. A cafe owner who paints in the morning, a potter whose kiln follows an old family recipe, a bell tower that tolls for seasonal celebrations. These interconnected lives form a network that spills outward, inviting visitors to follow trails to Motovun, Rovinj, and the Limski Canal beyond. To step into Grožnjan is to step into an ongoing dialogue between land, art, and community, a small village that pulses with unexpected modernity. And as the sun sets over the Mirna Valley, this hilltop keeps whispering secrets that will draw you farther into Istria's hidden heart. In Grožnjan, every door you knock on offers a map to local secrets, where to find the best prosciutto, the hidden studio with the boldest murals. And by the time you leave, the village has already sewed itself into your memory, a small, stubborn place that reshapes the way you think about rural life. Perched where the Cetina River carves a dramatic canyon and spills into the Adriatic, Omiš is one of the rare places on Earth where a wild river meets the sea beneath towering karst cliffs. Do you know Omiš once hid a fleet of medieval pirates who used the canyon's caves and fortress perches to ambush merchant ships and vanish upstream in minutes? Walk its narrow stone streets, and you can still feel the tug between mountain and sea, where Venetian-era houses lean toward the harbor, and salt-scented winds carry stories of raids and refugees. Above town, the ruins of Fortica and Mirabella keep silent watch, their stone walls framing views of the Cetina Gorge like postcards that refuse to be tamed. But Omiš is not frozen in legend. The same canyon that sheltered outlaws is now a playground for rafters and canyoners who race turquoise rapids and plunge into hidden pools. Climb the ancient trails, and you'll pass shepherds' terraces, wild thyme-scented slopes, and natural lookouts that connect your gaze from the river mouth to the distant outline of Brač and the Dalmatian Islands. At the confluence, freshwater eddies meet saline currents to create a brackish estuary teeming with migratory birds and fish species found in surprisingly few coastal rivers. Local fishermen still tell of nighttime signals and hidden coves used centuries ago. And today, those same coves frame quiet beaches and seaside taverns serving octopus caught that morning. From Omiš, the road threads along the Makarska Riviera, inviting travelers to carry its pirate legends and river roar to nearby Split and the white-sanded bays beyond, where land and sea keep changing partners. Stay long enough, and the town's clapa harmonies, the echo of oars, and the distant canyon roar will begin to make sense, as if the past and present in Omiš were stitched together by the very water that carved it. On the island of Brač, Croatia's Zlatni Rat reshapes itself with wind and currents, making it one of the few beaches on Earth that can literally move. Do you know Zlatni Rat's slender horn can bend, retract, or elongate over weeks, changing the way waves and simmers meet the shore? Composed of gleaming white pebbles, the spit juts into the Adriatic like a living sculpture, its tip sometimes slicing east, sometimes west. That constant motion has created microhabitats along its curve, shallow lagoons, driftwood groves, and windward reefs teeming with fish. Locals read the beach the way sailors read the sea, predicting shifts that matter to fishermen, kite surfers, and photographers alike. On stormy days, the horn curls into a tight crescent. On calm afternoons, it stretches straight, inviting long walks and quiet reflection. Beyond its shape, Zlatni Rat is a study in contrasts: bright turquoise water that cools quickly, warm pebbles that hold sunlight, and hidden currents that fascinate scientists. Marine biologists return each summer to chart subtle changes in sand deposition and to monitor rare seagrass meadows clinging to the shore. From the pebble edge, views sweep to the limestone peaks of Brach and across to the glittering islands of Hvar and Vis, connecting Zlatni Rat to a wider Adriatic tapestry. Boat trips from the nearby town of Bowl thread past secluded coves, linking the beach to ancient fishing villages and olive groves inland. Despite its postcard perfection, Zlatni Rat is fragile. Storms and human activity can nudge its form, and the community now balances tourism with careful stewardship. Local guides lead low-impact tours, teaching visitors how to walk without disturbing nesting birds and how to respect the sea's ever-changing boundary. In early morning light, the beach feels almost a secret, a white spine cutting the blue, while by dusk windsurfers leave looping silhouettes against the melting sun. Photographers who chase the tip's rare flips when the horn suddenly points the opposite direction say those moments are the island's most rewarding surprise. And when you're ready to leave the pebbles behind, a short walk into Bowl brings stone-paved streets, centuries-old churches, and taverns serving freshly grilled fish. From Zlatni Rat's shifting shorelines to Bowl's timeless alleys, the island reveals how natural change and human tradition coexist along Croatia's coast. Every season tells a different story here. Spring's wildflowers, summer's busy beaches, autumn's quiet retreat, and winter's winds that sculpt the horn anew. For many travelers, the real draw is not just a single photograph, but the thrill of watching the beach quietly rewrite itself. Zlatni Rat is a reminder that some landscapes are not fixed backdrops, but active players in their own histories. And once you've felt the grain of those pebbles underfoot, you'll understand why the Adriatic has kept its secret so well. Brijuni National Park on Croatia's Istrian coast shelters over 700 plant species and a rare confluence of Mediterranean and subtropical habitats, found in only a handful of places worldwide. Do you know? Brijuni National Park contains Roman villas, prehistoric pile-dweller settlements, and submerged shipwrecks that reveal layers of human history beneath its turquoise seas. The archipelago's 13 islands are stitched together by pine-scented trails, hidden coves, and limestone cliffs that glint like ivory in low sunlight. Visitors still stumble upon ancient mosaics and Roman baths where fishermen once anchored a millennia ago. In the 20th century, Brijuni became an unusual diplomatic playground, with stately villas and parks planted by international leaders. Tito's summer residence here left behind a mosaic of gardens, a safari collection of imported species, and elegantly preserved seaside promenades. The park's small safari lets you see zebras, fallow deer, and exotic birds grazing under Aleppo pines, an experiment in blending culture and nature. Yet conservation is never far. Scientific programs monitor native orchids, rare seagrasses, and migrating bird populations that rely on these islands. Beneath the surface, meadows of Poseidonia seagrass cradle juvenile fish and help stabilize the shoreline in a marine refuge that surprises every diver. Archaeologists have mapped submerged Roman harbor structures and cargo from ancient traders, turning the seabed into an underwater museum. The island's walking paths unspool from dense maquis to sun-drenched bays where olives and vineyards cling to terraces carved by centuries of hands. Family-run farms still press olive oil, and local fishermen still haul glistening catches that shape the island's simple, fragrant cuisine. Guided tours weave stories of prehistoric communities to Habsburg-era hunting lodges, making the past feel immediate amid rustling pines. Birdwatchers time visits for spring and autumn migrations, when flocks pause on Brijuni's islets before crossing the Adriatic. Conservationists now balance the park's cultural legacy with habitat restoration, reintroducing native plants and protecting nesting sites for rare seabirds. Research stations collaborate with international teams to study climate impacts on the Adriatic and the resilient ecosystems around Brijuni. A short boat ride from nearby Pula links island serenity to the mainland's Roman grandeur, creating a rare pairing of natural and historical tourism. From Brijuni's olive terraces, you can almost see Pula's amphitheater, a reminder that Croatia's islands and cities are chapters of the same story. Stay a day, and you'll wander sunlit ruins, swim in crystalline coves, and watch lawns where exotic grazing animals graze contentedly. Leave with a sense that Brijuni is not an isolated relic, but an active laboratory of nature, history, and sustainable tourism. Mist lifts from the lowland lakes to reveal Trakošćan Castle, perched above a perfectly still artificial lake in Hrvatsko Zagorje. Once a 13th century stronghold, it was remodeled in the 19th century into a romantic neo-Gothic residence by the Drasković family. A stroll through its landscaped park feels like entering a painted tableau, with mature oaks and statues framing mirror-like water. Inside, carefully restored rooms display family portraits, period furniture, and a surprising collection of weapons, old coins, and relics. The lake itself is largely man-made, created to amplify the castle's reflection and create theatrical vistas rarely seen in this part of Europe. In the 1800s, the castle often hosted salons and concerts, connecting local nobility to wider European cultural currents. Curious exhibits include hunting trophies, folk costumes, and rare coins that chart regional trade and influence. Guides also point out attic rooms and watchtowers, where faint traces of older defensive walls still remain. Whispers of hidden passages and buried family heirlooms persist, blurring lines between documented history and local legend. Those stories keep visitors leaning closer, wanting to know which details are real and which are embroidered over time. Trakošćan's blend of fortress and fairy tale retreat reflects Croatia's layered past, where military necessity met 19th century romanticism. From here, the road winds toward thermal springs and Baroque towns, linking inland power centers with urban elegance. Autumn transforms the surrounding beach woods into a blaze of color, making the castle's reflection seem to change with every step. Photographers and storytellers come for that shifting light, but linger for the quiet rooms that hold centuries of domestic detail. If the Dalmatian coast shows Croatia's sunlit face, Trakošćan reveals a more secret identity, cultivated, guarded, and full of stories. Stand by the water at dusk, and you'll feel why this place inspired romantic renovations and continues to draw those who seek history and mystery. Along the Plitvice Peninsula, the walls of stone stretch across limestone ridges as one of Europe's longest preserved defensive systems, guarding centuries of salt wealth. Do you know the original ramparts were built in the 14th century by the Republic of Ragusa to protect priceless salt pans and a strategic harbor? The walls snake for roughly 5.5 kilometers, punctuated by fortresses and 34 towers that once housed garrisons and artillery. Stones quarried nearby were fitted without mortar in place, creating an engineering resilience that has baffled and impressed restorers for centuries. Walk the ramparts, and the views open to terraced salt pans like mirrors, and to oyster-filled coves where fishermen still haul black pearls. Beneath the battlements, Mali Stone's narrow streets lead to centuries-old shellfish beds that helped shape Dubrovnik's culinary fame. The salt works themselves are living heritage, using tidal channels and small sluices tuned by generations to harvest some of the Mediterranean's purest salt. During Ottoman sieges and Venetian threats, the walls served not only as fortification, but also as a visible claim of economic sovereignty. Restoration after earthquakes and neglect has revealed hidden chambers, fresco fragments, and surprisingly modern drainage solutions embedded in medieval masonry. Local stonemasons still use traditional tools to rebuild collapsed sections, preserving original techniques passed down through families. Climbing to a bastion at sunrise gives a panorama where the stone salt pans glint. The Adriatic folds away, and islands punctuate the horizon. The light catches on weathered stones, turning centuries of conflict into an open-air classroom of trade, defense, and craft. Behind every crenellated wall, there's a story of trade routes, smuggling, salt taxes, and the quiet labor of salters and oyster cultivators. Today, guided walks and tasting tours stitch the walls to vineyards and seaside farms, linking human ingenuity to Croatia's living landscape. As we leave the stones and step toward Mali Stone's oyster farms, remember, these walls were built not to impress visitors, but to protect livelihoods. The next chapter of this coastline story waits in brine and shell, where centuries of taste still shape modern plates. Preservation efforts balance tourism with the delicate ecology of salt marshes, ensuring birds, fish, and traditional livelihoods coexist. School children still learn the old measurements and signals used to coordinate salt harvests, keeping intangible heritage alive. Walkers who follow the ancient path can trace how natural coves shaped military lines and how human hands shaped the sea's yield. Ahead, Molly Stone's oyster farms and the peninsula's vineyards invite a closer taste of why Ston Walls were worth every stone. Plitvice Lakes National Park is one of the planet's rare living landscapes where travertine barriers continuously form to create 16 cascading lakes. Do you know the park's waters can change from azure to emerald to gray within minutes because of mineral content, algae, and shifting light? Walking its boardwalks feels like moving through a laboratory of geology, botany, and time, where algae and moss cement limestone into new rock. Hundreds of waterfalls thread the lakes together, each one sculpted by tiny organisms that trap calcium carbonate and build dams over decades. The park's microclimates shelter endemic plants and rare brown bears, lynx and chamois that use the karst valleys as hidden corridors. In winter, the cascades freeze into cathedral-like sculptures, and in spring, meltwaters roar as the system reasserts itself with renewed vigor. What seems eternal is actually fragile, with water quality and vegetation determining how travertine grows and which lakes expand or shrink. Conservation here is hands-on. Scientists monitor pH and flow, and traditional grazing nearby helps maintain the open meadows that feed the watershed. From Plitvice, the karst water journeys west, feeding rivers and springs that sustained mill towns like Rostock with their own cascading mills. Those stone mills echo the same limestone forces that shaped Plitvice, linking human history to the park's geological heartbeat. Beyond the park, the karst continues toward the Adriatic, where submerged caves and springs feed crystal coastal pools near Zadar and Šibenik. Traveling this road reveals how a single underground network carved lakes, coastlines, and the livelihoods of generations. Tread softly here, and you follow not just paths, but processes, from mineral-rich spring to waterfall to meandering river. And as you step away, the murmur of the lakes follows, a reminder that nature's architecture is always in motion. In the next segment, we'll trace that moving water downriver to the coast and the towns whose identities grew from it. The story of Plitvice doesn't end at its borders. It flows, carrying limestone, legends, and life to places you'll soon recognize. Understanding these connections changes how you see Croatia's coast, its islands, and the settlements clinging to rocky springs. Join us as we follow the water's path from emerald pools to salt-scented harbors and uncover the hidden links between inland and sea. Telašćica Nature Park on the island of Dugi Otok shields some of the Adriatic's steepest coastal cliffs, soaring to 161 meters and plunging into a labyrinth of hidden coves. Do you know Telašćica's Mere Lake is a hypersaline inland pool, saltier and often warmer than the surrounding sea, where unusual brine communities and rare halophytic plants thrive. This colossal bay is also one of the safest natural harbors in the Mediterranean, its calm waters cradled by cliffs that have sheltered sailors for centuries. Beneath the surface, underwater cliffs and dense Posidonia meadows weave a living tapestry that supports dolphins, groupers, and vertical walls teeming with life. On land, windswept karst plateaus meet ancient olive groves and aromatic maquis, where hundreds of plant species have been recorded, including local endemics and rare orchids. Trails climb from salt-smudged shores to panoramic ledges, revealing a coastline sculpted by tectonics and time, where every strata carries the memory of the Adriatic's geological past. Fishermen's ruins and scattered shepherd huts hint at human lives that once relied on the park's bounty, and those quiet remains remain woven into the landscape. Seasonal migrations charge the sky as ospreys and seabirds wheel above the cliffs, turning the rocky edges into vital nesting sites. Local stories tell of submerged freshwater springs where colder currents meet the warm surface, creating pockets of surprising clarity for divers. Explorers and marine biologists still find unexpected caves and vertical drop-offs here, cataloging species new to science and mapping corridors that connect life across the Adriatic. Mirror Lake itself shifts color through the seasons, from deep green to shimmering silver, its moods dictated by microalgae and changing salinity. Kayakers who paddle its tranquil waters often discover tiny islets, ringed with salt-tolerant tamarisk and ancient stone walls that once marked cliffside pastures. Today, conservation efforts guard nesting birds and submerged seagrass, balancing growing tourism with the fragile systems that make Telašćica globally important. Walk the paths at dusk, and you can feel how geology, sea, and human history have intertwined here to create a landscape both rugged and intimate. Next, we will trace a hidden corridor from Telašćica's cliffs toward the nearby Kornati Islands, where currents stitch together reefs, caves, and the tiny communities that depend on them. Prepare to see how those same marine seams carry life and legends across open water, linking cliffside springs to coral-like sponge gardens and beyond. Hidden within Croatia's ruggd karst landscape is one of Europe's most spectacular emerald canyons, carved by the Zrmanja River. Do you know that the Zrmanja River Canyon twists through limestone gorges so pristine that its turquoise waters reflect cliffs and ancient caves like a living mirror? Far from tourist crowds, the river snakes past secluded waterfalls, pebble beaches, and rusted stone mills that whisper of centuries-old rural life. Kayakers and rafters praise the canyon for sudden flurries of calm pools and rapids that offer both serene paddling and heart-stopping druise. In spring, karst springs swell the river, turning the valley into a ribbon of vivid green, framed by vertical rock faces streaked with mineral stains. Birds of prey wheel above, and endemic plants cling to cracks where no one thought life could hold on, creating pockets of rare biodiversity. Local guides will point out remains of Ottoman-era fortifications and abandoned hamlets, linking the canyon's wild beauty to the region's turbulent human history. Downstream, the Zrmanja opens toward the Novigrad Sea, its fresh waters meeting the Adriatic in a brackish estuary that teems with migratory fish. To truly know this place, you must listen to the river's voice, its thin, clear lap against stone, the thunder of falls, the hush of reed beds at night. And as you follow the canyon upstream or downstream, You'll find each village, grove, and inlet stitched together into a living map of Croatia's wild heart. Taste local cuisine in riverside taverns, where trout is grilled over wood fire, and simple cheeses speak of pastoral traditions. And remember that the most transformative moments often happen in silence, when the canyon's scale recalibrates your sense of time and belonging. For those who seek both adventure and reflection, the Zrmanja River Canyon offers a rare blend of wild spectacle and intimate solitude. It's a place to lose your map and find a story you'll carry long after you leave its green, echoing walls. Velebit Mountain harbors one of Europe's largest uninterrupted karst systems, with sinkholes and caves that sculpt an otherworldly skyline. Do you know Velebit Mountain contains endemic plants and animals found nowhere else, some surviving since the last ice age? Trail networks thread through limestone ridges and deep gorges, where winds carry sea salt far inland and shape rare microclimates. Hikers cross high-altitude pastures, dotted with relic beech forests that host species unique to the Dinaric Alps. Beneath its surface, underground rivers carve caverns like Lukina Jama, plunging deeper than many skyscrapers and challenging spelunkers worldwide. The mountain's mosaic of habitats supports vultures, lynx trace sightings, and night skies so clear, astronomers can map stars with precision. Northern Velebit National Park preserves pristine plateaus, while nearby, Paklenica Canyon offers climbers limestone walls that rise directly from olive groves. From its ridges, the Adriatic's islands shimmer in the distance, linking highland solitude to Croatia's glittering coast and maritime heritage. Local shepherds still guide flocks along ancient transhumance routes, keeping traditions alive and shaping the landscape through centuries of grazing. This human-nature partnership created flower-rich meadows that burst into color each spring, attracting botanists and photographers alike. In winter, snowfields descend to exposed karst, revealing fossilized seabeds lifted by tectonic forces that tell Croatia's geological story. Every ridge is a living map of time, from Mediterranean scrub to Alpine tundra, compressed into a single day's journey. Access points like Senj and Starigrad connect visitors from the coast directly to Alpine trails, blending seaside leisure with mountain adventure. Conservation efforts balance tourism and wildlife protection, inviting careful travelers to witness Velebit's fragile, extraordinary ecosystems. If you follow the ridgeline eastward, the landscape morphs toward the Dinaric chain, leading naturally into the wilds of Biokovo and beyond. What seems like isolated peaks are actually gateways, each connected by history, geology, and human stories that we'll explore next. Hidden between karst plateaus and the Adriatic coast, Krka National Park harbors one of Europe's rarest river tufa systems that continually rebuild waterfalls like living stone architecture. Do you know Krka's Skredinsky Buk is not a single drop, but a 17-step travertine cascade, where mineral-rich waters weave new rock while sustaining marshes, orchids, and endemic fish. The river carves deep emerald pools and limestone islets, sheltering centuries-old watermills and olive groves that whisper of traditional river cultures. Visitors glide on wooden skiffs toward Visovak Island, whose Franciscan monastery preserves rare manuscripts and quiet frescoes tucked inside willow-fringed channels. Tufa, the porous limestone that forms here, grows as mosses trap calcium carbonate, then cement into stone, which means the landscape is literally alive and changing underfoot. Each season, the cascades subtly shift, sealing small caves and opening bright new shoals where trout spawn and kingfishers dart in sudden flashes of cobalt. Walkways and wooden bridges thread visitors close to the falls while protecting the fragile balance that allows the tufa to accumulate. At Skredinsky Buk, the old watermills still click and turn, and local cheeses and smoked fish carry a flavor shaped by Krka's mineral-rich waters. Upstream, Roshki slap fans across rocky terraces, a wilder counterpoint where plunging curtains of water drape mist gardens and fern-lined grottos. Photographers chase the shifting light here, while scientists study Krka for clues about karst hydrology and nature's astonishing engineering of living stone. Beneath the surface, hidden channels connect Krka to the Adriatic, knitting freshwater habitats to coastal life and shaping the livelihoods of nearby towns. From these waterways, the story naturally flows toward Šibenik, where local masons once turned the same limestone into the extraordinary carvings of St. James Cathedral. In Krka, time stacks in rings of sediment, and in the human archive, Illyrian shepherds, Roman surveyors, and Venetian sailors all left traces in its bends. That layering makes the park both a geological laboratory and a living museum, each bend of the river telling a new chapter of nature and culture entwined. If you listen at the edge of a still pool, you'll hear more than water. You'll hear centuries of commerce, prayer, and quiet renewal that keep Krka alive. As the river slips toward the sea, Krka hands its secrets downstream, inviting the next town, the next ruin, and the next hidden wonder to reveal itself. The park's secluded coves hide rare orchids and delicate dragonflies that depend on tufa-created wetlands, tiny survivors of a long geological experiment. Visiting Krka is not merely seeing waterfalls. It is stepping into an ecosystem that repairs and remakes itself, a rare living lesson in resilience and renewal. From the milky turquoise cascades of Plitvice lakes to the sun-baked terraces of Hvar's lavender fields, Croatia stitches together landscapes found nowhere else on Earth. Each island and inland valley hides a story: salt-worked coasts, Roman mosaics in Porridge, silent pine forests on Mljet, and vineyards on Telašćica that yield wines older than the nations around them. We traced the thin blue ribbon of the Dalmatian coast from the labyrinth of Kornati Isles to the fortified red roofs of Dubrovnik, following sea lanes that have carried builders, monks, and traders for millennia. We wandered up karst cliffs in Paklenica and down into subterranean caves where rare bats and stalactites keep time in slow crystal rhythms. In Istria, we tasted truffles that grow beneath oak roots and met artisans who still press olive oil the way their grandparents did. At Krka waterfalls, the river remembers ancient mills and a chain of cascading pools that blink like green lanterns amid chestnut woods. Zagreb surprised us with a blend of Austro-Hungarian salons and street markets humming with modern life, proving Croatia's story isn't only coastal. And on island terraces, generations have coaxed fertility from thin soil, carving human resilience into every dry stone wall. These places are not isolated sites, but chapters of a single living geography, where islands send sailors inland and rivers carry coastal histories to mountain villages. The more you follow these connections, a trade route here, a watershed there, the more the pattern becomes clear. Croatia is a mosaic of micro-worlds that fit together like a map and a memory. If this journey has shown one thing, it's this: the unexpected is never far, from a salt field that mirrors the sky to a hidden monastery that guards an improbable library. So when you leave, you'll carry not just images of cliffs and beaches, but questions that keep pulling you back. Which hidden cove will be next? Which old recipe or whispered legend will rewrite how you think of place? Let the memory of this country be an open invitation rather than a closed postcard, a place to return to and to keep discovering. After all, every narrow alley and every winding river still has one more secret to reveal.